All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Amanda. We are going to be talking through the April 2026 release recap today. I'll be kicking us off with the USAS releases and the inventory releases. And then we will also be talking about USPS and ESS and IPDIPI. So we have a good amount to cover today. Um, to go through everything that was updated in this past month. We've made it to May 1st, so that's this year's flying by. Um, okay. So I'm gonna jump right in to USAS. And if you are on the USAS side, I know what you're thinking. What about fund change? And so I'm putting this right at the beginning, the very first thing we're going to talk about. So if anybody goes back and watches, this will be the first thing on here for USAS. And the answer is that fund change is coming soon, but it's not released yet. It didn't get released in April, but I still want to talk about it because we are anticipating it for this very next release coming up. So I do have an instance where I have a preview of it. So I'm still going to show it today so that you all can sort of get a look at, how it's going to work. I've started updating the documentation, and then that way, you have that information for when it does get released. So I have it marked as a preview here in new features because it's not actually on one of the three releases from April. And the first thing I want to preface with is we've been saying kind of fun change for a while now because the feature that was requested was based off of the classic software's fund change. Um, as this um, as this function has been developed in USAS now, what it's actually doing is changing a cash account to a new cash account. And so when this is implemented, what we're going to be calling it is cash account change. So we'll have to do a little shift on on our terminology for that one. So you all know how those things go. Sometimes it's it takes a little adjusting to get everything switched. But um so I'm gonna refer to it as cash account change the best I can. That's what it is in the documentation. Um so we'll go with that. Uh where we're at now is we have the functionality in there so I can show you today like where it's going to be, how it works, but we're actually still wrapping up some final changes with making sure all the updates, we're testing it thoroughly to make sure everything updates as it should. So right now that's planned for the next upcoming release, which is scheduled for next Friday. So we'll keep up to date on that. Obviously, once that's sent out, that'll go out to the updates. Um, that'll go to the updates email. So keep an eye out for that. So where this is going to be is under the utilities account change. Let me hop over. I have my instance here. Let me just zoom in a little bit, make sure everything is visible. So because this cash account change, it's similar to account change. There are some differences that we'll see, but it is going to be on this same account change page that you're used to. Now, if I wanted to create or initiate a cash account change, I would use the create button just like I would for a regular account change. And under this account change type, we have the cash option. Now, the first big difference, and this we have documented, it says it in here. Well, it says it'll create the new accounts, but the first big star that you need to put is that what the two fund and the two special cost center cannot already exist. So if you have districts that are going to be using this option, this is going to accounts fund special cost centers that don't exist yet. So, like the regular account change for expenditure and revenue accounts, you would have the options in here where you would create the account first and then you'd initiate the change. With cash account, it's going to create the new cash account and all of the associated accounts for you. So, Luckily, the main, one of the changes that this would be used for is, you're changing to something with like a 9,000 special cost center, and those can be flexible. So, if there's, a good chance that like maybe they did create something, maybe you can just use a different 9,000 special cost center if they want to use cash account change. So yeah, so the two account cannot exist is a big key. We have our cash type. The starting fiscal year, same idea as with account change. Whatever starting fiscal year I'm choosing, it's going to change all of the transactions associated for that current fiscal year. So, any of like the expended or received amounts that I have starting in 2026, so back to 7/1 of 25 will be changed from the old accounts to the new accounts. Which also means, just by the way, that if there are situations where they're not wanting to change the current year's history, then they don't actually need to wait for account change. You could just create new accounts for the new year and then move forward. So that's another note. So then we have our note here. Cash account change will create a new cash account and update all underlying accounts tied from the cash account hierarchy. So my old account would have the cash account, that's the fund special cost center. And then underneath that, I have, variety of expenditure accounts. I have a variety of revenue accounts. And so when I run this, what it's going to do is look at all of those old all of the accounts under the old cash account, and it's going to create similar accounts, but with a different fund special cost center for my new cash account for anything that exists. This will not merge multiple accounts into a single account. So, as I mentioned, the two fund and special cost center, they do have to not already exist. So, at least in this first implementation, this matches how the classic program worked, where it has to be a new fund. So, cash account, like the cash account change is not going to be used to like, say, merge a bunch of other special cost centers like into the general fund because the general fund, of course, exists. So it's not meant to merge, multiple existing into just one account. It's basically moving it, sort of like a one-to-one situation. Um, And then jobs must be scheduled with a 45-minute buffer to allow completion and avoid potential errors. So we'll talk down here. There's a way to schedule these out, depending on the accounts that they're going to be changing. A cash account could have a lot of accounts underlying. So we added this as sort of like a safeguard because, it would not be ideal for them to schedule like multiple large account changes back to back or the cash account changes back to back. The scheduling of the job allows them to maybe schedule them overnight. So if they're going to do that, they must be scheduled with like 45 minutes in between, basically, so that the first one can complete before the second one starts running, would be the idea. Okay. So then we would pick the from account and you see the drop down is all just cash accounts that we have here and hmm um, so I did some tests yesterday, so I must have used that one. Okay. And then so we enter our from account, we enter our to account. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And the next option here is exclude inactive underlying accounts with no activity. So anything that has activity would need to be copied because, like, ultimately all of the balances are going to be moved over as well, right? So, like, the totals on the old cash account should end up being the totals on the new cash account. So we can't necessarily exclude inactive accounts if they have any amounts in them. Those have to be moved over to the new fund special cost center. But any inactive accounts that just have all zeros, you can exclude those if you don't want those to be created in the new account. So just check that box. If you want to initiate the cash account change right away, you can leave this bottom box blank. You're not required to schedule the job and then save it, which I think is what we're going to do to see. Um, but if you want to schedule the cash account change, then it gives you a drop down. You can choose the date and the time to schedule it, and um, that'll go ahead and get everything set up to go, and then it'll just run the actual change at the designated time. So, here, let me just make sure before we click save, let's make sure we got everything. Yeah, okay. Didn't have much. So important thing though is like when I save this, this is another difference from the regular account change is like, with like an expenditure or revenue change, you're used to saving it to the grid and then clicking apply. With the cash account change, when you save it, it's going to initiate the change. So if you schedule it, then it'll wait and start the change in the future. But if we don't schedule it and I save it, it's going to go ahead and initiate it now. Um, the first thing that it does is it creates the new cash account. So this warning is just telling me, hey, the cash account that you're changing to didn't exist. I'm making it. So it makes that new cash account immediately. Um, the other thing I want you to notice, we have these pending here, is there will be, so for each account in that cash account, it's going to create a row on your account change grid. And so these ones are associated with my change. You see that these are pending and they do not have a to account yet. That's normal. So when it first gets saved, it creates each row out here with the from account, and as it goes through and processes the cash account change, it will add a to account. So once this gets completed, once this goes through and actually processes, the to account will populate. But I know you're not used to seeing that. That was one thing when they showed us, I was like, okay, that looks a little different, right? So, the to account, while this is pending now, let me see. Okay. No, these are my scheduled ones. We'll look at this progress tab later. That's another thing that is there now. So here. So we have the refresh up here too, but you can see now like this one is now completed, and so the new account is available in there. That's another thing, like I saved this to process right away, so these are going to go through here and complete now. But if they schedule one, say overnight, it'll still put all of the rows in this grid with the blank to accounts, like until that process is at the scheduled time. Okay, and then let's see. Okay, so I have that noted here. And then the other thing I want to show you about this, because obviously, like, this looks a little bit different. It is going to have the type of like expenditure or revenue because it's going through, it created the new cash account. Now it's going to be changing those to um, the expenditure and revenue accounts associated with the new cash account. I'm a bit zoomed in here, so we'll scroll over, but usually these are visible is we have a couple new columns. You'll actually see these in there. These are in the current release, but they won't be used until cash account change comes out. But one of the things we talked about when the team when they were working on this is we're like, okay, well, since it's like expenditure or revenue type, like, is there an easy way to see like which one of these are with the account change? Like, what if I want to look at my scheduled ones, or what if I want to look at ones associated with like I just saved this change to the 9913 special cost center, uh and so how do I see those? Because I got a lot going on, right? Like this would be a little hard to filter. So what I can do is, first of all, is it associated with the cash change? So I can put true in here. Now, all of these, I've done a couple other cache changes in this instance. All of these are associated with a cache account change. If I want to see everything associated with that change that I just did to see like, okay, is it done? I can do this and I can see all of and obviously in this case, test data, I got three accounts. Usually you'd have like a whole chart, right? I can see here that I've got these are what just changed with the change that I implemented. So this makes it really easy because the new cache account code like can exist. You're going to be creating the cache account code with the change. The new code will always be unique. So whatever you used, as the new cache account code will always be a different one to be associated with the change you made. Um, if you have a change that is scheduled. Um, Let me see. So I have this one. Let me make sure I have the right one. Okay, so I have this one that I scheduled like previously. So this one I put in like a date and time. This will run later today. And actually, you know what? Here, hang on. I want to see under our job scheduler. Yes. Okay, I believe. Yes. Okay. So I scheduled this out here, this last one. Sorry, I know this looks a little bit messy because we're zoomed in and we're in the job scheduler. But see, I have a job here that's pending and it is a cash account change job. And I scheduled that for today at 12:43 p.m. So this is the cash account change that I have sitting out there. If I wanted to go see like when this was scheduled, I could see it through the scheduler. Um, and then actually, wait, sorry, I left this open so we didn't have to resort. So that's this one sitting out here. So this would just, I could leave this here. This will run, at that time, it'll add the two accounts, it'll change the status. If I wanted to, if I said, actually, wait, I don't want this to run anymore, like cancel it, what I can do is filter to get all of the cash account changes. And I could click to select all, and we have a delete button. So a select all delete. So you wouldn't have to delete any individually, but I could go ahead and delete this. It does give me a warning saying one or more of these are, associated with a cash account change. You'll not be able to recreate these once deleted. Do you really want to delete these? Yes or no? Keep in mind the cash account has already been created. So if I wanted to do a new one now, I may need to pick like a new special cost center, but this would at least be able to stop them. The job, I know that like sometimes with the job scheduler, like that's not the most user friendly for people to go in. If all of the if all of the changes for a cash account are deleted on this grid, there's just going to be nothing to run when the job goes, so they don't necessarily also have to go do that. If they just delete them on here, then it'll be fine. Then it'll be, deleted essentially. Um, okay. So, yeah, so that's everything I wanted to talk about with just cash account change coming soon. We have a couple more account change things to talk about, but like some of the stuff has been like already released and is applicable for the account change that's available. So, um, okay. Question. So even if you schedule it as pending, it will auto create the new cash account. Yes. As soon as you save it, it is creating the new cash account. Okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, if you all still have additional questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'm gonna move on to this other stuff because again, some of this still relates. So, uh, but yeah, I mean, I know that that's a big topic. We wanted to show it, show what we can because like all the functionality is built. It's just waiting on like that la like on the last piece that we're like sort of fine tuning to make sure everything updates properly, but we were like, I know that, you all at the ITCs will be getting questions from the district, so hopefully that preview of just how it's going to work can kind of, help get you prepared. Um, so improvements in from the releases this month is there is a progress tab that was added, and so this is in there now. And you can see here for the cash account changes, it'll show as scheduled. But if I were to run a regular account change, um, you know what? Actually, let's just go with the pictures on this one. So if I were to process a regular account change, like a regular expenditure to expenditure account, once you apply that, it'll put it over in this progress tab so you can see. So if you run like if you run like a good amount of them, say we have an import option now, they might be changing like running a group of account changes. Then you have this progress tab where you can sort of keep tabs on where each change is at. It comes over as pending. It does change to in progress. This one actually ran so quick I had a hard time getting screenshots, but you can see here's completed, but when it's in progress, it does give updates, some more detailed updates than we used to get, and like the percent of how far it is in the process of the change. So, so that's what that'll look like. So the progress tab is there. There also is a new account change report. This one, it's like account change. I think of it as like an automated report because there's, a report in the report manager where you can look up like previous changes. But what this one does is when the account change is processed, the report is created, a copy of the report is sent to document storage, or the archive if you don't have document storage set up. And it will be put in the fiscal year folder. And that basically will show a summary of what was changed. So again, this is one that's sort of like in anticipation of cash account change. But just a regular account change will also produce this report. So um, forgive me, in my test instance, I don't have document storage, so we're going to look at it through file archive. I'm so sorry. I have a cold, so if you keep muting, apologize. So fiscal year reports archive, and then in the year that the changes run for. So like when we schedule that change and we pick the fiscal year, it's going to go to that folder. So you can see here, I have reports for these different ones that I ran. So right now we have this like account change report. I don't know if I actually had anything to change on this. Hang on, let's see. This one might be blank. Yeah, this one's blank. So I didn't actually have transactions, but I just ran a change on an account with zeros. But this one, I think should have. So we can see um this would be like a preview one for a cash account change where you can see the accounts to account from account changes the initial amount um and what's basically getting updated. If the transactions also would be listed. So sorry, I don't have a better example, but for each account change, that's going to put the detail here. And the file name, so it's like description as account change report, but the file names do have whatever the account. So this is the to account, and then it has the date and time stamp as well. That's nothing you really have to like set up or do. That's just going to automatically be included in there. So we have some notes about that title. Um, Okay, so now we kind of switch gears away from account change. We have a new button that was added to download the stack trace from the monitor page. So this page is something that is for like administrators, or like higher level accounts. So the monitor page, and then if you go to the app log, so the app log, super helpful for troubleshooting. This is where it keeps a record of different events that happen in the software, informational events, warnings, or even like if a user gets an error, then you can see the detail here. A lot of times, you at the ITC, when you were working with us at SSDT to troubleshoot things, we will ask you for the error detail or the stack trace. And so I know it can be a lot to come into this app log and be like, okay, what are all these words, right? But if you find an error, if you have an error row, and what we're really looking for here is like this exception detail. This really can tell us, or the developers rather, a lot about what is happening or what may be causing an error. And so previously you'd have to like copy and paste this. But right, what we did now is added a download error message option. So you can just click this. It's going to download a TXT file with the error message, and then you can like attach that to your ticket to us. So that makes it easier. That's consistent with what we have in some of our other applications. We have a button like that. So we've added it here now. Okay. Um, so we did some cleanup for the bugs. We corrected a bug with account change to prevent creating a change for a closed fiscal year. Like if you chose it previously, it wouldn't process, but it could be created. So just to prevent that, step of even from happening, we cleaned that up. Internally, we had some improvements to the anonymizer. That's not yet available, so we have some additional changes there, but that's something that's being worked on. We had a patch for a specific district to correct an invalid document reference. And then we are still working on the REST APIs, which is something that's sort of in the background, that it doesn't really affect anything that you see. So that's USAS. More, um, quite a bit there with the account change, but I hope that was helpful. I'm also going to talk about inventory as well, which I just have a couple things here. There was one regular release, April 10th. And in inventory as well, we had an update to the monitor menu as well. So this is similar to what we saw in USAS system monitor. There's now a monitor page there. There wasn't before, so we added this. It has the app log and security log tabs. This is what it looks like. It's pretty simple, similar to what we just saw in USAS. You have your timestamp, warning, information, error, and then it has some information here. We do still have future updates planned for this one. So if you go in there now, you notice there's not like a view, we don't have like a download stack trace yet, but they're planning on additional updates to this. So it is more simple than the other applications right now, but it's there, but we've added it. And then security logs shows like all of the login events that, I know that I believe the auditors want. So that exists there. And for bugs, we also updated the document. So in document storage in inventory, when you are uploading, um, usually like the previous like fiscal year end bundles, the size limit for those different, I guess, bundles reports, the size limit has been increased. Um, so that is updated there. And, I wanted to show, okay, sorry to hop back to USAS. I just have one more thing that I wanted to note since we talked all about cash account change. The account change documentation I linked here. I just wanted to point out that, since we were talking about it today, since it's coming out soon, we did start to update this. So if you go in here now, we have, the section for cash account changes, expenditure and revenue account. And those are sort of organized into different sections. So we have this note that says it is not available yet. As soon as it is, I'll take this note out. But we did start getting the documentation in here. So hopefully that doesn't cause any confusion. Um, but just wanted it to make sure it's there because we know that as soon as it comes out, districts are going to want to start using it. So, yes. So that is all I have. I think we are switching to Andrea next.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
I'm unable to share at the moment.
Looks like I might have a setting. Sorry, let me see if I can change
Oh, there
some.
we go.
You
I
got it?
think
Okay,
it, yeah, thank you. Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure what screen I need here. Um, Number three. Looks like it's what I need. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Okay. All right. Happy Friday. Hope wherever you guys are, the weather is better. We've been getting a lot of rain here, so hope Mother Nature is about done with that. Okay, this morning we're going to be going over um, a couple releases in April. We had two regular ones and then a quick hot fix for one issue. And the new features will be, okay, there's a couple features on the scenes behind the scene, which so you can't really see them. And then I have improvements, add sort options back into interface for the reset personal leave that was removed in error. And I just have somebody at the doorbell. Oh my goodness. Okay. Can't believe somebody is here. Um, so the sort option interface for reset personal leave. And then this would be for reset personal leave. Oh, okay. So when they did an update to the re of the personal leave here, they had the sort options here were for this was removed by accident. So they did a put this back in there. So that's all that was. Then the employee dashboard attendance creation. When creating an attendance, the default wasn't going to the first position. It was just picking random positions when you're in the dashboard of the employee. So they updated that. So now when they're at the employee dashboard, they will see when they're creating an attendance or absence, they will pull in the first position. The next one was an improve a layout of attendance journal create components. So when changing the browser, the window, the size, the zoom, the fields will now stay in the correct size. So when they were going into the attendance from here, they were having issues when they were creating. So the screen was not modifying to whatever screen the size they had. So these fields here or the boxes were smaller, so they didn't update. So now when they are in there and they are creating the zoom of the size will be correct. So the next thing was they added a new warning message to leaves view when saving a leave with blank amount. So now when they're creating a payroll item, or excuse me, in leaves, and that would be here when they would go in and either create a new employee or do something with the max leave, now they cannot save without a max leave amount. Let me see if I can do that. And of course, I didn't get an error. So what was that? Blank max amount. Yeah, don't know why. Oh, it might be with the new. It's not eligible for leave, of course. And you should get a warning, but I'm not certain why I'm not. Let me see. Let me try that. Oh, there it is. Okay. So the warning max leave amount is blank. So you cannot get a leave max leave amount on without entering that in now. So that should say some pain on that. So the next thing is the prevent the life insurance adjustments, and this also was caught with taxable benefits amounts that when they were doing some testing, it was inflating the Medicare taxable gross on the quarter report. This was caught by quite a few districts. So now when they do life insurance adjustments or taxable benefit adjustments, it will not inflate the Medicare taxable gross for the employees' Medicare taxable wages on the report and also on line 5C. So now they should not see that amount double when they add that life insurance adjustment or taxable benefit. That should not be doubling. Add a new property for qualified overtime to the historical pay amount. Now, this would be just for ITCs because as of right now, districts can't see this, but with you are working with a district and you're using the custom grid creator, if you go to the historical pay amount, we added that field here now in that column. Yeah, right. So if you are looking at some things for a district, you can use this now to pull reports or get totals for that qualified overtime. The next thing is we wanted to add these here for you. So if you wanted to keep track of what is coming up in the next release, where they're doing some new calculations and they're going to be using the overtime, the current payroll. That's where the calculation's going to be moved to when they're doing the calculations for the qualified overtime for the W-2. So that's going to be coming up in the next release. So we attach some of these juror issues for you to kind of look at your convenience. One of them is to add the qualified overtime calculation to the current payroll. So that will be updated. And then another one is going to be writing a patch for any previous 2026 pay amounts that already are out there for employees. They're going to update those so they get picked up and those will be reported correctly on the W-2. The other JIRA issue is for W-2 report processing, the calculating of the quarter overtime from historical pay amount and adjustments. So they're going to make sure that those are getting picked up and calculated correctly. The next JIRA issue for the next release is a new payroll report, or they're just going to add to the pay amount summary report the qualified overtime amounts. So they're working currently on that one. And then also the year-to-date report. They're going to add that qualified overtime amount to the value of the calendar year-end report. The other one is they're going to create a new report for qualified overtime. So this is going to be in PDF, CSV, and Excel. And what it's going to show, as of right now, it's going to show the employee number, pay date, pay type, the overtime flag, the gross amount, and the qualified overtime. We did talk about adding a search option where you can search just for included employees, excluded employees, or employees that have none. So I think they're going to add that little option in there to sort by those. So again, keep an eye out on these, and those again will be coming out on the new next release. The next one is the included system users. Their districts too. We had a couple of districts found that when they were doing an audit, it was not showing any of these changes. And what we found, it was the importing of absences or attendance from ESS. So what they did now is included the local root, which is either it's going to be local root on your audit report or local system. So when you run the audit report under reports, now these record postings will show. So when you do see that, that's kind of what that means, that these were adding those imports from ESS when they were importing. Another one, there was the behind the scenes update to mass loaded attendance import for third parties. So something you won't see, but something they did behind the scenes. The other one, they added an address property to core under core codes building code. And then this is going to be used in subhubs. So they got that added now. So when you go to core codes, you're going to see a new column here for address. And this is only going to show for building, not for department. So they can start adding addresses for their buildings and get those updated. And we also added that to mass load. So just to let you know, that is a mass load if you want to do doing mass load instead of entry. If you have multiple or many buildings to update, you can also start use mass load and get those added if you're going to use SubHub. The next one is the core payroll account mass change that we added. Um, Before they were not updating the new contracts, new maintenance. So if you were adding new accounts and new contract at that time, it was not picking up those account changes. So that now it's going to mimic what Classic was, and it's going to include and look at new contracts, new maintenance for any accounts that were added. And if those payroll account mass change was ran, it will go ahead and look there and update those accounts at that time. The other thing was the change was made to the permissions in the document store. Before, anybody with read access was not able to use the search option. So that would be that search option here. So now if they have just view or read only, they can use this now. The next one was when the payroll item, when they were adding a payroll item or changing the deduct max type, if they were not setting the deduct max type and then no amount value was entered, the max amount cannot be blank. So that means when you're in payroll item, and if you're in an employee, let's just pick one here. And if you had one of these selected, but you didn't have the max amount entered, it should now give you an error, and it doesn't, of course. I think it's the other way around, this way. Try that. There we go. Okay. Why is it giving me fits here? Okay. Well, that is very odd. It worked before.
There is
Isn't
a
that
bug
always it when
with
you
this, early, Andrea.
I'm sorry?
There is a bug with this. It will only work
Oh,
if you make it blank, and we have a Jira issue for the
thank you.
sure.
I
So
appreciate that. So
next,
that'd be why. That is very weird because, yeah,
you have to
we
make
got,
it blank, but it will
okay,
not be with zero.
okay. So if you do have one of these set, then the max amount has to be entered. So as she said, there is a bug with that. So, but they should get this error. Max amount cannot be blank, but deduct max type of set. So thank you, Bella. The next thing is the add the RCS state record. This is we've been working. The devs have been working on this so that districts can now submit their Ohio tax submission files if they have any corrections for their employees. So the one issue was to add the RCS record, which was missing before. So that is what they'll see here now. The next one is they added the original federal EIN property. So that you will find on the very top of the record here. So when you're creating, you're going to see this original federal EIN number. So you got to make sure that doesn't automatically pull in. So you're going to have them remember when they're, if it's for Ohio or any state record, they're going to have to make sure that they remember to enter the federal EIN number here. So then what that does is create a RCE record, and what that is, it will show on that line then. Um, and the other thing is, so when you're looking at the W2C form, you will not see this property. So just a reminder, it's just on the submission file. So one thing I did want to go through the W2 checklist, and I did include the WC record Ohio tax corrections. We updated this. So now if you go to this, you can see on number 4, we updated the W2C submission file and added your steps of what needs to be added. Excuse me. And then down here, we also added to upload it to the Ohio Business Gateway. And then we also added in the steps of the reports W2C. Of what needs to be added. So when you're creating a state correction record, on the fields here, what are required, even if they're correct or not, you need to add the state abbreviation and the original name and corrected, the original EIN of the state and the corrected. So that's just going to be, even if it's correct or not, this is what is required for that submission file. So you just want to make sure that they have these fields created. And then, of course, then what you're correcting, either it's original wages to corrected, original tax to corrected tax. These fields are required in the electronic filing. So we have them added here, and we also have them circled here for you to remember that these have to be added when you're creating a W2C for our Ohio correction. So again, we added that in the records, and we also added that in the W2 checklist. So now when you're going through the checklist, you should not forget a step, and the file should be created and be able to submit with no issues. The next thing is now a lot of districts were having issues when employees were leaving and or being terminated, and they had no way to get into that W2 digital delivery under employee. So now when they go in here, this is modifiable now. So if you are using the W2 digital, now you can go in and update that. They can unclick that or clear out the date or what they need to do, and then they can save that now. The next thing is there was a request if instead of printing blank on the direct deposit for employees under the exempt federal or state, it would be now printing as 0. So that's been updated. Okay, so those are our improvements. Is there any questions on the improvements? Okay. Where are we at here? Okay, the next thing are some bugs. One bug was an error was occurring when attempting to view or edit any existing core payroll items under the payroll item templates. When we introduced that new template under payroll items and we created that, there was a piece that was missing in that payroll item configuration that was not getting pulled into these. So they had to go ahead and get that bug updated, so they should no longer see that error anymore. And then after migrating a file archive to document store, districts were receiving a server error, null pointer exception when they were viewing old classic reports. So now that has been corrected. So if you do still having an issue with that, please let us know, but that should be fixed now. Another update was hours and day on the position was not allowing decimals. So in the employee onboarding portion of the position, so now that has been corrected. The next thing was the handle daily compensation conversion for qualified overtime calculations. So now they had to do an update because there was finding that it was not calculating because there was a piece missing in there in the calculation. So now it's going to use the employee's compensation unit amount, divide by the hours and day on the compensation of the employee, and then it's going to multiply by the 0.5. Oh, I hate it when it does that comment thing. And then multiplied by the number of units that were reported in that current pay record. So here's just an example. The employee compensation unit amount, and then divide by the hours and day times the 0.5 times how many days was listed in the current pay, and then that's what's going to be reported on the W-2. And one thing to remember, if you're have somebody and it's not showing up on the W-2 under qualified overtime, look at the employee's hours and day and make sure there's a amount in there. Because if it's blank, it can't do the conversion to calculate that, the overtime conversion. So you might want to take a look at that first. The other thing is the blended overtime calculator. When we were doing some testing, we noticed that when you were changing employees on that calculator, it was not clearing out the employees' information. So they did a fix on that. So now when you're going in between changing employees on that, where are you at? Blended overtime calculator, when you were bringing in an employee, it would bring in the information, but then when you're going to find a new employee, it was not doing that. So now when you're changing employees, it will erase all this information. The next one, there was just a bug behind the scenes error on the employee for the date text on the custom field definitions. There was something missing there, so they updated that so they no longer have an error showing up. And then the next one is a district found when they were running the employee earnings register by CSV, somehow they got a division by zero error, and this was for an employee with zero gross but a positive net pay. So that was a very probably once in a lifetime kind of thing that was happening, but they've changed that. And so if any employees in the future happens to have this, shouldn't, it will run incomplete now. Okay. Is there any questions on the new improvements or anything at this time? Okay, thank you for joining me and have a wonderful weekend. I will hand it over to Mary then.
Good morning, everyone. Let me get my share button going. Okay, for ESS, we have 2 regular releases and 3 hot fixes. There were no new features added, so I'll start right in with the improvements. The first one was to make the start and end time columns on the timesheet form a little bit smaller so that you could see reason better. So if I go in to look at a timesheet for someone, let's pick Brent because he's my nemesis here. Excuse me. And thank you to Amanda for providing me a congestion over Zoom. Thank you very much. So if you, as you can see, we have a start time and end time that are shifted over a bit, and that gives you more room or real estate for the reason code. So that was one of the improvements. The next item was how leave requests are handled and added as timesheet line items. So for this one, if someone added, we'll take a look at Brent's. Whoops. Oh my goodness, where did I go here? So we'll take a look at Brent. So for him, I have a couple days listed here. So 4/14, 4/15, and there are 2 leave requests entered here, a quarter day and a half day. So if I go look at his timesheet, it brings it in and then splits out the time that was on his shift. And I'll show you that so you can see it. Let's see, it's for his driver position. And so now it will split. This is the 14th right here. He's on a split shift. It took the quarter day leave and put it here. And then he has the rest of his morning shift and then his afternoon shift. They are looking into this some more because the didn't work correctly for the whole day. So that is going to be looked at on ESS 1588, that gyra issue. But they are working on improving this so that the leave request goes in properly. What I did find is on the leave requests, they really have to be accurate as far as their times when they add the time in on their leave request, because that is reflected precisely on the timesheet. So that has to be accurate. Any questions on that one? Okay, the next item was close the job, period job will now check the configuration to determine if auto close has been changed since the job had been scheduled. So if someone unchecks the auto close on the timesheet period, it will now check that first before auto closing the timesheet. That is located under system configuration and then timesheet period close right here. So if they want to, they can uncheck this automatically close timesheet period. Excuse me. The next item that we have is user registration is no longer case sensitive when the user enters the email. We had a situation where someone's email was in capital letters in USPS that came over to ESS, but the user was self-registering and using lowercase for their email. So now it's case insensitive, and either way it will work. On the timesheet export, handling daily compensation is going to be hours worked divided by the hours in a day. If the value that is calculated is greater than 1, then it's going to set the amount to 1, and rounding is going to be 3 decimal places for those that are under 1 day. For that, let me take a look what I'm doing for that one. I'm going to look at Timesheet. Oops, sorry. Got to close that. And let's look at Tina's. That was not the right one. Sorry about that. What happens when you play a lot, right? Testing things. So these are the times that I added in for her. She has a 6 hour day, and these are the hours that were worked on the timesheet. So what I did was run the export, and her timesheet. Excuse me. Tina's timesheet export looks like this when it's downloaded. Previously, it was if I had like the 7.5 hours, it would be downloading as 7 days. Oops, there it goes. So now it does the calculation and puts in 1 day for anything that's over 6 hours, and then less than that for anything that's under. And then that could be imported into the USPS system. And the next item, sorry, my mouse is a little bit laggy today. For the next item is timesheet emails. They improved the wording on the notifications for when there is a leave request change, which affects the timesheet. So if the request is canceled, then a notification is being sent showing that the timesheet's been updated and it's due to a cancellation. I'll give you a bit here so you can kind of see what it's going to look like. So it's going to look like this. So if it's an initiated timesheet, it'll say it was initiated and there's a cancel of a leave request. And if it was an approved timesheet, it'll tell them that as well, that there was a canceled leave request and that it's on an approved timesheet. So that's for the improvements on ESS. Are there any questions on that? Okay. Okay, the bugs, they for timesheet, there was a paging error when someone had more than 50 lines on the grid, and that has been fixed, so now you can get into the screen even if there are more than 50 lines. And then also, this one was a little odd. If someone was creating a timesheet and they had a leave request, if there were no, if it was a blank timesheet and had no times entered in for a particular date, let's just say April 13th, then it was causing a null error on when they would go into the timesheet. So to fix that issue, what they've done is they've decided to enter the leave request times. The leave request will be entered on that line so that it doesn't create that null error. So if someone does have a leave request for a particular day, that will take precedence over what they type in on the timesheet. For leave requests, the first bug fix on that, excuse me, there was a missing property on the leave request daily details in the background, and they fixed that, so now that's working properly. Leave expense mileage estimate, was not staying on the form when they saved it, so now that is being saved. The next one, the blackout entry for partial day. When they set up blackout dates, they have to make sure that they put in disallow blackout date on the leave type grid. Then when they put in a 2-hour delay, it should adjust that leave request. So if I have a whole day, it will only adjust for the 2 hours. They are revisiting this gyro issue because in some cases it isn't adjusting it, it is still canceling it. We did discuss this at yesterday's sprint, and they are currently looking into it. So hopefully they will get that resolved. However, if they do a blackout date for the full day, if someone has a full day and they do a blackout date for a full day, that still does work. The next one, if a leave request is updated by changing a position, it's going to also blank out the leave type. Because if someone has two positions and one is eligible for vacation and one is not, then it was allowing you to change the position and still keep the vacation leave type, which isn't correct. So now when someone goes in to a leave request and changes the position on that leave, it will blank out the type, and they will have to go in and put in the leave type that they want to use. And I can show you that on the screen here. So go to leave requests. And I'll just pick Brent Hurst, the custodian. So if I go here and I try to change this to secretary position, it now blanks out the leave type. So I can pick from the appropriate leave types for that position. Okay. There was an issue also with the ASOP leave request subcategories. And that was a background issue as well. It wasn't displaying them properly. So now that's been fixed and they are displaying properly. The next one is corrected the date in the employee name column. I'm sorry, the data in the employee name column of the leave request export view. So it was no longer showing the name, so that was quickly fixed so that you could see the name on the leave request export. They also corrected an error on the leave request form. Let's see. There was a, excuse me. So they fixed that one as well. It was in the leave request details area. The next one I wanted to talk about is the missing alias on the USPS compensatory repository. So that was there was information in the background that was missing when trying to export the timesheets. So it wouldn't export them properly and you were getting an error message. So that one was fixed as well in the background. The employee sort on the revert leave grid was not working properly. So now it is. So if you go to the revert leave, if you go to export leave history view and revert leave details, you can see that sort column is there now. This one I want to spend a little bit more time on. It's if you were if you had a leave request for a day that was fully adjusted and you tried to enter another leave request for that day. So let's say on April 13th, I had a sick day and I adjusted it and used the adjustment feature. It was not allowing me to enter another leave type for that same day, even though it was adjusted. So now you can go in, have a leave, adjust it, and export that adjustment, and then you will have the ability to add another leave request. I'm going to show you this on paper because otherwise I'd have to go through all the exports for the adjustment and everything. So this is so if I had a leave request, I'd click on this here, the adjustment button, and then I would put in that I need to adjust it for the full request. I create the adjustment, then the adjustment is exported by the leave manager and then imported back into USPS. So now it's going to ask him again if he goes in and creates another leave for that same day. So it's going to say, well, you had a date on that. Do you still, I'm sorry, this was for the past. So it's asking me if I want to still create it, even though it was in the past. So yeah, I want to create that I'm using the other type on here. Then it goes and lets me create it. If they want to create an additional adjustment for that day, it's going to error out because it's already been adjusted. So then once I completely, this is what will happen if I did not export that adjustment. So it'll give me that error if I didn't export. Then I can create the new request and it'll put it in there. So I now can see that on April 24th, and I'm sorry if this is too small for your screens, I had one that was other and then one that was military and one that was other. So you would have to go in and take a look inside of both of these using that eyeball to see what happened with that, because it'll tell you this one here was adjusted. Are there any questions on that? Okay. The next one was fixing a validation when the leave request required a subcategory. What happened here was there was on the leave type grid, it said that if someone selected sick day, for example, and didn't and needed to have a subcategory or a reason, subcategory and a reason, if those two checkboxes were checked on that leave type screen, I should go in there and show you that, sorry. So that's going to be under configuration, system configuration, leave type configuration. So subcategory required, if that's checked, then someone needs to go in, the timesheet or the leave manager would need to go in and create subcategories. Okay. And what happened in this case is they had that checkbox checked, but there were no subcategories created. So there was an error created there. So now it gives them the appropriate message. It wasn't giving them the appropriate message before. And it says that no subcategories that were set for leave type, but it is marked as required. So contact your leave manager. And I will add that screenshot to the documentation for today. The next item is fixing an error preventing the update of leave request daily details when it was on the calendar form. So when you were on the calendar, someone changed the leave request, but it wasn't reflected back in the calendar. So now it is being reflected back on the calendar. Let me go. Calendars. So originally, this leave request was, let's say, on the 16th, and we changed it to the 17th, but it never moved the leave request to the 17th. So now that has been fixed. And then there were several patches and internal fixes for this release here. Okay, any questions on ESS? All right, I'm going to switch to Dippy now. So there, for this one, Amanda handled the first two releases on last month's recap, so I will not go over those again. For this, the rest of the month, we had they had to fix the approval trail where there was a situation where someone was a user, they were um, a- on the activity trail, but then they went in and deleted the user. So now they've fixed that, and it won't happen again because they're using the user name on the activity trail rather than the actual user account. The next item we had was that we were splitting attachments loader, and this is only for conversion. And this is in the kiosk loader, and they're separating it into three because of the way the file was created. They had the same ID numbers attached to activity as they did to committee and plan. So now they can load these, but they need to be split into three files. This is documented here, but I'll show you where it's at in the system here. So they would go into system and then kiosk load. And then under here, there are three attachment loaders. So there's one for activity, one for committee, and one for plan. Again, if that's only if you're converting, and then in the future, they are working on another mass loader for attachments to be used in the future rather than the kiosk loader, because the kiosk loader was so specific to kiosk conversion. The next item we have is added an attachment count to the activity committee and plan grids. And in order to see this, they would need to go into the more option and add that to their grid. So up in here for the committee screen, it's called has attachment. And you can see here I've added one to this committee group. So you can see that they have an attachment there. For activities, and I'll go into the district activities screen. That one for the activities and the plans is called attachment count. And I can sort this maybe. So On this particular plan, I have two attachments, and on this particular plan, I have one attachment. So if they were to add attachments, you could see who has attachments on their activities, and the same for the plans. If I go to plans, I can see, um, for example, Ricky has one attachment on his. Okay. We also had, when there was a situation where there was multiple users that had the same credential ID um, during the professional certification sync. So in the app log, it gave that error message that there was someone or two people with one credential ID, the same credential ID, but we couldn't tell who it was. So the developers have added that information onto the error message so that we can find who it is that has the issue. To fix that, then they had to add the correct credential ID to the second person, resync their positions, and resync the professional certification. And then everything came out okay. There was another error message when in the user logs and had multiple active plans. This only happens again when there's a conversion and there were multiple active plans in place. It would not allow the employee to log in. Now it gives a more user-friendly error message. And then the last item we had was a grid button to submit activities for approval. This one, if a user has activities and they save them but didn't submit on that initial save, there was no way for them to submit it. So now let me go in I'm going to log in as somebody different here so you could see. Oops. So Ricky has a plan and has some activities, but I have an activity that's initiated. Prior to this fix, this button wasn't here. This is the submit for approval. So now he can create as many activities as he wants, take a look at them again, and then submit them with this button. The other item, I'm going to sign out as him. So the next item is the supervisor. When a plan was returned for modification, you couldn't update the supervisor on it, but now you can. So I'll go in as Tara. So I'm in as Tara, and I have some activities that are, oops, I'm sorry, plans. Let's try that again. She has, sorry about this pop-up. She has a plan that was returned for modification. So if I go in and edit that, I can now get my drop down here and add the supervisor if I need to. One caveat for this is you got to make sure that the supervisor is actually set up in Ippy even if they are set up in USPS and come over, but they're not a user in Ippy it won't show up for them to pick from. Okay, the next item, oh, this one, the teaching field and endorsement fields are also now syncing with the professional certification sync where previously they were not. So that's been fixed. The There was a bug allowing reordering of focus area groups on a plan template. That has been fixed. You cannot reorder them. However, if you are editing a template and you're adding more focus areas, you can organize and reorder those new ones that you are adding, but you cannot intersperse them with ones that are already on the template. Um, there was also a situation where there was locking during the plan and activity approvals where someone would have the plan or activity open for approval and somebody else would either also have it open or someone was in there fixing it or changing it and it caused a lock situation. So now that has been fixed to provide an error message to let people know that there's been a locking situation and that the page is going to be refreshed so that they can refresh the page. And then that won't happen. Okay, I am done. I think I need to turn this over to either Michelle or Amanda to close out.
Mary, yeah, if you wouldn't mind if I shared my screen real quick.
Sure. If my stop share would stop.
So,
That's only the third time I pushed it. There you go.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
I just want to wrap up real quick, everyone, and just let you know, I mean, May is a big month for everybody, right? And so we do have some big sessions coming up. We have the payroll fiscal year in review coming up next Friday. And then the USAS and inventory one coming up on the 15th. And then on May 22nd, we do have a SubHub Ohio preview session, just a preview at that point of where the application is. I just wanted to let you know about that one because we just added that not too long ago. We're planning on doing a preview session in June as well. If you kind of look down here on June 26th, we're planning on doing it again. These sessions will be recorded. And then we also have an actual overview session that we plan on doing in July. So probably a little more in-depth on that one. But like I said, these sessions will be recorded. And I just wanted to give you a heads up of what's going on in May. So if you guys don't have any questions, that's all I had to talk about. So thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.